creating a stud wall with metal rails. So I'm a little bit rusty at this because the last time I did this was when I was still working for the commune in Normandy, and we were refurbing the pharmacy there. We did quite a lot of work to renovate the old, what was a garage. In fact, it was a garage, and it became the new pharmacy for the town. So that's a good 4 or 5 years since I've done any of this. So it takes a little while for the old grey matter to kick in, as usual. This is fairly straightforward system, however. So you have two types of metal rail. You've got the rail that goes top and bottom, and then you've got the uprights, or what the French call the montant. And everything's, I've got the sort of the snips that are easy to cut it, and I've got a little tool that just clamps the two pieces together when you're ready. So the idea is always to put it in loose and make sure you're happy with it all before you start attaching it, before you start clamping it together. And so the little machine that I've got sort of punches a hole through and pushes the metal either side of it, and it just sort of holds on. It's like a little stud that puts in. So on this one, I've cut down the sizes to something like 1.43 meters. So you're around about 4 foot-ish, 4 foot and a bit. And luckily, because the other side, it's all the way the levels work out, the other side, which is going to be sort of the master bedroom, it's the exact size for the offcut that's coming off this. So it drops slightly deeper in the other room, so it means there's no wastage on those uprights, which is nice. And so I haven't got a wall either end that I can come off plumb with. So what I end up doing, or what I started doing by sort of mistake, I mark the top and bottom of the rails. What you do, you mark every 60 centimeters, maybe 2 foot. And obviously that's fine if you're coming off a plumb wall, but if you're not, there's no point marking it top and bottom. You want to choose one or the other. So in the end, I ended up choosing the top markings that I put in, and then all you're going to do then is just put a level on it, on each rail, and make sure it's level, make sure it's plumb, and then move on to the next one. And every 1.2 meters, you do two rails, two uprights together, so back to back, because that's obviously where the join's going to be with where your plasterboard meets, because the plasterboard size is 2.5 meters by 1.2 meters. So that's something like 8 foot 4 inches by about 4 foot, and 4 foot and a touch. So on this one, I think there's 3 lots of doubles, working your way across the room, and then it would be a question of making sure the levels are right either end before you fix it to the frame, to the rafters. And then obviously it'll return slightly on an angle, so it'll follow the level of the roof, or the layer of the roof, and then the top ceiling will be flat, and it will be 2.5 meters high, which means that it'll be a full plasterboard up, which obviously makes life a lot easier rather than faffing about cutting, because there'll be enough cutting anyway with the fact that you're partially into roof space, so you don't need to be doing more cuts than are necessary. But the snips that I've got are very nice and sharp. They cut nice and easy, and it's nothing. There's nothing, like I said, too difficult with it. If you don't have the snips and the tool for sort of clamping together, you can just screw through using plasterboard screws. It's just that way is a little bit slower. It'll take a bit of time to do that. Whereas with mine, it's fairly sort of instantaneous. Once it's clamped on, it's clamped on. So there's going to be, obviously, this is the side of one side of the bedroom, we'll call it bedroom number two. And then obviously there's going to be a divider that will come in between that and bedroom number three, and that will be on, that will have a slight return on it to accommodate for the fact there's a bit of a doorway leading into bedroom three, and also you've got several doors also in this vicinity. So you've got the bedroom, you've got the door for the bedroom two, which I'm working in, door for the bedroom three, and then door for the shower room. So it'd be a little bit complicated in and around that area, but once it's in, it's in. And then I can also get to work on organising the cob to start closing up, because the nice thing about this is that that partition wall between the bedroom two and the master bedroom will be visible. So I'll be leaving that like that, which is nice. Unfortunately, the other side is where my neighbour's partition wall is, which is, again, it's in cob and timber. I can't leave it like that because it's too open. It was never properly finished. So I'm going to have to stud that out as well, which you'll see at the end of this video, just because obviously I need to make sure that I'm well insulated and I don't have any issues with cold and stuff getting through from his side into my property. So because his loft space is unused, so it remains a loft. It remains very open. There are lots of holes and stuff in his roof, and he's not looking like he's getting around to fixing it anytime soon. So I need to make sure that mine's kind of airtight as far as all that's concerned. So, like I say, unfortunately, that side will get studded out as well and insulated. And I might even on his side put a vapor barrier. I'm not a big fan of vapor barriers. I know they work well on for concrete slabs and stuff. Stop moisture working the way back into your concrete slab. But houses like this, they do kind of need to breathe, and that's what they were designed to do. So at the moment, I haven't decided whether I'm actually going to run vapor barriers all the way through this or not, or whether I'll just allow the insulation to allow air passage as such to dry on one side and pull out any moisture on the other. So any tips you might have on that, I'd be happy to hear. I'd be happy to hear your advice on that. Anybody that's done this, but because we've got cob walls anyway, so they're gonna absorb a certain amount of the moisture that's in the air anyway and slowly dry out. And I'm hoping it'll be quite a nice warm sort of building anyway. It's not overly big, which is one of the reasons why I bought it in the first place. And it should be relatively easy to heat using the wood burner. So that should retain, and obviously we need to keep an airflow on the other side where the roof is, to keep the roof dry and to keep the roof timbers dry, which obviously hadn't been for donkey's years, and that is why a lot of the timbers end up being replaced. And then obviously on the left hand side there, you can just sort of see the chimney stack, which is in solid enough, but it just needs the render sort of falling off in places, so that needs tidying up a little bit, tighten up a bit. And that was done in sand and cement render. So whether I need to redo something similar or not, or whether I could do it in lime, remains to be seen. And there's a tiny bit of damage, as you can see on the left hand side. I don't know if it's damage or not, or just why they've done it like that. Maybe they'd anticipated, I don't know, putting a fire in this loft area. I don't know. But there's sort of a separate issue, a separate opening there on the left hand side. I don't know what it's all about. So getting back to the rails, so you're marking off. So you mark off every 60 centimeters you want an upright, and every 120 centimeters you want two together, and they can just be clamped together as well. Always check your levels. Always do everything. Like all these things, it's a bit like plumbing and stuff. it's always better to do it dry and make sure you're happy with it before you finally fix it, rather than rushing ahead and fixing it and finding that's in the wrong position or it's not quite upright or whatever. So I always do the same with plumbing, or if when I'm doing waste fittings and stuff, put everything in nice, put everything in dry, make sure the run works as that you want the run to work, then mark it off and then glue it together so that it's as it should be. Because there's no turning back with the old glue. Once you've glued the joint, it's not ungluing it anytime soon. Anyway, I digress. Yeah, so I've marked off the sections. I've just put a felt pen on every 60 centimetres, and I'm now just checking the uprights, making sure they're about right. Adjust them fairly easily, just slide them along. And obviously there's also holes in these uprights that you can then feed in the electrics, because obviously we'll be putting sockets and stuff into this room, and there'll be lighting as well. So that's quite handy. It's all that has been thought out for you. It's all ready for you. And also the size of the insulation that comes between these. You get sort of panel, you get slabs of insulation which are 60 centimetres wide. So that all helps as well. So it fits in nice and snug between the uprights. And then what I would then do is at the rear of that, so I would put in the 200 mil of insulation first, so that you've got a nice 200 mil, and then you've got the extra 50 millimeters, which is between the stud work, and then you've got your plasterboard. So it should be nice and snug, and hold the heat in the room and keep the cold out at bay. I don't mind the roof space itself being cold, because that's, if you've got a bit of an airflow there, that obviously helps with keeping the roof timbers dry. And also there'll be, just before all the plasterboard goes up anyway, I'll be treating the timbers. I've got the stuff came today for anti sort of woodworm and everything else. So that'll be good to get that on the timbers as well before the plasterboard goes on and the insulation goes on. I'll probably leave the insulation for a little while anyway, just because I can continue my first fix electrics and get all sorted out, and try and close up the areas at the bottom of the roof there that you can see sort of daylight peering through, just where the soffits are. So take care of that, and then I'll be ready for putting the insulation on. So I've got that, and then I've also got the 200 mil insulation for the top of the ceilings. My thinking behind this is that with the insulation, it should be nice and snug, and with the floor being in cob as well. So here's just showing you briefly just the markings off. So 60 and then 120, so you've got doubled up, and then your next 60, and then your 120 again doubled up. The only one that I haven't got is the final one is that should be doubled up as well, but it's tight to the chimney breast, and I think that's probably sufficient for what it is. And then, so this is the other partition wall I've been speaking about. So this is the partition wall between myself and my neighbours, which needs to be blocked off a bit better and insulated, because there's tons of holes. And there's the offcuts that came from the other side, and they fit quite nice into space there to make up that bit of partition there. So there you go, the two sides. So we're up and running with the stud work, which is nice. And there'll be a lot more of that to come, and getting the doors fitted on the internal doors as well. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.